Before this video begins though, quick announcement from myself. Do you like playing Tribute? Yeah, no one really does. But I am hosting a Tribute tournament. All you need to do is join the Discord down, link in the description. All you need to do is make a team of 4 and then give me a team name. We have team names like the Lawful, the Bashful, and the Thankful, Team Bleed Bitches, and no, I'm not saying that one. But if you want to join, link in the description down below. Anyways, enjoy the video, subscribe. JJ was released with the Rulin faction on October 16th, 2018. Every single hero in this faction added a new mechanic to the game that honestly, not many of the cast could really deal with. Tiandi with his massive dodge attacks, Shaolin's key stance, Nusha's traps, and JJ literally just fucking existing. In my honest opinion, every single hero in the Rulin felt more like a hybrid instead of their active role. JJ was probably the most guilty of this because if we look back at old heavy heroes, they were really clunky and cumbersome with no dodge attacks. Normally one-trick ponies with high health pools, but JJ was completely different. JJ was allowed to freely dance around at the ripe age of 90 with the graceful ballerina. He had Shifu stance, which allowed him to special cancel out of moves out of recovery, and he was just very fluent and flexible for a heavy class hero for the time. Ultimately, after a month of the Wulin being out, everyone was at the consensus that JJ was the strongest hero in the faction for a good couple of reasons. JJ was an insane standard ability and revenge staller, so if you parried one attack, you almost lost your entire stamina bar, and if you were in revenge, you might as well just throw your controller out the window because your revenge was gone. What also made him good is that JJ's did such an insane amount of damage that they felt borderline unfair. Pairing his damage with Shifu stance made him an insane threat in Dominion. A lot of old JJ gameplay can really boil down to entering a team fight, finding a corner where nobody can see you, and then starting to external people over and over again. And well, what if you missed? Well, Shifu stance your recoveries, and Shifu stance the dodge attacks. On top of being a recovery cancel, JJ Shifu stance had 2 special properties no stance had ever had, and even to this day still don't have. The first part is that if you enter in the stance, it costs no stamina. When you enter the stance normally for other characters it costs stamina, but for JJ it does the exact opposite and regens his stamina bar. This can always feel really cheesy because after landing a hit, you're free to Shifu stance to gain that stamina back, which Clash Royale players would call a positive elixir trade. Not only that, but JJ can use this ability while fully out of stamina himself. If JJ were to use Shifu stance without stamina, literally nothing changes. He still gets the increased stamina regen and the iframes that the stance gives for the start. He is the only hero in the game that is allowed to use his special stance while completely out of stamina. With this ability, JJ can literally regen his entire stamina bar in a matter of seconds and at the same time dodge all incoming attacks. Which means while even out of stamina, he can fully trump any charge bashes in the game, while other heroes like BP and Ibushi physically can't. And keep in mind, when JJ existed, it was basically the prime area of stamina punishment meta. Heroes like Warden, BP, and Yorm dominated the stamina drain system, and with how the old stamina features worked, if you went out of stamina, that meant you basically died. This was the one most oppressive meta in the game, but it never affected JJ whatsoever. Before we talk about JJ himself, I'd like to talk about the people who played him back in his prime. And I'd like to look at 2 individuals who really set the example for high tier JJ mains. If you played in NA, East, and you're on PC, you might remember 2 notorious JJ players, first being Genghis Khan, and the other one being Up in Them Grits. Genghis Khan would start literally every match with his chat completely off, basically one-tricking JJ, and at any inconvenience turn his chat on, say something really racist about your mother in broken English, and then pull his Ethernet cable to avoid the ban penalty. How do we know that he was pulling his Ethernet cable? Well, because if anyone remembers For Honor before crossplay, there were barely a couple thousand people playing the game. So what would inevitably happen is that he would join the same exact game he just left and then repeat the process all over again. Apparently he went through many chat bans and then Ubisoft inevitably banned his account, and then he tried again on a second account and then the process happened again, and then we never saw him again. The second player was Up in Them Grits. Normally started every game with his chat off, and the moment he started to lose would blame literally everyone but himself. You know those guys that run to a 3v1 on point while their entire team is dead and then complain that they have no teammates? This guy was the boss of complaining. Basically, what example I'm trying to show is that while JJ was in this overpowered state, all JJ mains did was bitch and complain over their own mistakes, while at the same time blaming everyone else for their fuck-ups. This made people hate JJ even more because the majority of JJ mains were just literally so unlikable. Fast forward a bit, JJ would receive some nerfs, which I really cannot find on the internet, but the CCU did take a massive hit to JJ's overall damage. But after his change, JJ was still a solid pick, seeing as literally every hero got nerfed with the CCU, but JJ mains didn't care because, they have a master's degree in playing the victim. Fast forward to March 11th, 2021, JJ would go through a little mini rework of his own to not only solidify his place as a strong hero, they increased all of his heavy openers by 100 MS, meaning that JJ was now allowed to get a top heavy after guard break. For me, this is a fine change. I feel like every hero should be allowed to get a heavy after guard break. They also gave JJ the ability to soft feint GB with his finisher heavies. The biggest and most influential change was while in Shifu's stance, his zone attacks would now become a neutral unblockable. We talked about how JJ was an external machine, but with this change to his kit, he became an even bigger menace. While very little heroes had the privilege to have an unblockable into another unblockable, let alone one from neutral. But with this tool, JJ would regain his old job of the external guy in teamfights. They gave JJ a roll catch forward dodge heavy, but also removed the ability to feint it. And on top of that, they also gave JJ an opener bash. How do I complain about Ubisoft giving another good hero another opener bash? Oh, that's really easy. It's the fact that on miss, he can choose what attack comes out, meaning that on miss, he can either throw a light attack at any direction or a heavy attack in any direction, making JJ's bash extremely harder to punish without a dodge attack, which may I remind you, a handful of heroes did not have at the time of these updates. They also gave him recovery after his dodge attack, but that's kind of whatever. And this is where JJ is today. Has much changed? No, not really. I feel a handful of JJ mains I run into these days are really just extremely toxic people in most cases. And in most cases, I'm fine with toxicity, but you cannot be playing a character like JJ and then start gloating. If you beat me in a fight with a hero like Kensei Nobushi or Conqueror, it's probably because you outplayed me and, you know, emote spam, it's whatever. But if you play a hero like Pirate, Ocelotl, or JJ and you emote spam, it feels extremely undeserved because the hero you're playing is not hard and honestly probably played the game for you. I feel like I'm allowed to call both Pirate and Ocelotl easy heroes because I put my time into them, and the stats do not lie, with my Ocelotl having a 70% win rate in 127 games, holding a 2.6 KD. And my Pirate with a 62% win rate with an even higher KD of 3.36. These heroes are not hard in themselves. So where does that leave JJ? Well, I stated at the start of the video I was level 9 to 12. Not rep 9 to 12. Rep 0, level 9 to 12. And this whole time I streamed it so my entire audience could see how I played with it. So let's test my hypothesis. Is JJ an easy hero by looking at the statistics I had while playing him? After 17 games of playing JJ, I ended up with a 70% win rate with a 3.0 KD. And may I remind you that I went into this video with no research prior and did not ask for help or tutorials about JJ whatsoever. I played JJ based on observing JJ players in my lobbies, and that is literally it. Do not believe me? Around 10 games, I realized I could soft feint to guard break on my heavy attacks, and I completely forgot his dodge attack at a soft feint light. There were literal aspects of the character I was completely forgetting about and still excelling in every single game to get a 3.0 KD. So in my experience, what made JJ is the question. The answer is pretty simple. His damage is way too insane for today's state of the game. There would be fights where my opponent made 3 mistakes, and guess what? He fucking died. That's pretty fucking hilarious. I felt like I was playing on some sort of easy mode all the time. I had amazing damage, good hitboxes on all my attacks, 2 different forms of dodging attacks that also trumped level 3 bashes. Stamina consumption and stamina management did not exist while playing JJ either. But I think what we all have to remember is that everyone bought the game and is allowed to play whatever hero they truly want. If you yourself did not gift the game to the person, that means you bought it for them. You have no right to tell who and what to play at any time. Remember, hate the hero, not the player. I love you guys, and I hope you guys have a great day.